Hey, what's up you guys? Recently I have seen this short video while I was procrastinating on YouTube, as we all do. I believe it was a kind of former Greek diplomat. He pretty much explains what the Chinese foreign policy is about, investing in Africa and all this.
And they did. Why did they do it? Because it's soft power.
They are immensely self-serving, as they would, but at the same time they have a quality that we need in Southern Europe. Actually, I think everybody needs to have foreign direct investment by patient investors. They're patient investors. They don't.
So pretty much the guy says that China is very nice to comparing to other countries, especially the West. They don't cause wars, which is true. Yet, I mean, Taiwan haven't started yet, and if we would not count their keeps North Korea alive, then yes, China is not really a hostile state. However, there are a couple things you need to know. First of all, China does invest in Africa, but why? About 30 years ago, China was just a developing state. Nothing was going on there, no factories, no nothing. Average Chinese citizen was living below the poverty most of the time. The state was struggling pretty much. Fast forward 30 years, huge investments in China, huge factories. This being said, I have to say that Chinese culture and the history of more than 3,000 years helped this acceleration, because I know that I lived in China. I know that Chinese people have crazy discipline. This is something that is built in the culture. Obviously, that was one of the factors when people like Steve Jobs or Steve Wozniak or whoever was making these decisions to open these factories there took into attention before opening the factories. History of China is one of the oldest. I believe that's Egypt and China are pretty much competing for the oldest civilization on the earth. They used to have a statesmanship. Many things came from China. Until nowadays, we use Chinese alternative medicine. Now, obviously, China started to develop, but their resources is very limited comparing to the population they have. When they started, they were just producing the stuff for the other markets, like Japanese people. America was producing their stuff there. Later on, they started to understand, hey, actually, we could produce the same stuff. They started to come up with Chinese brands. If you don't know, Chinese cars are a really big competition right now in the world to America or to any other cars, because pretty much all the cars that we drive, they have the parts that were manufactured in China. They just decided, hey, wait a minute, why wouldn't we have our own cars manufactured instead of selling parts to other people? We can just make our own cars and sell them and make double of the or triple of the money. If you haven't heard, I believe there's a Chinese EV car called Zeekr. It's pretty much grasping the whole Europe right now. The cars is not the only thing. They produce pretty much everything. About every fourth product that is used currently in the world is made in China. Reaching that level, okay, we're now not only assembly line, we're also manufacturers. They started to think strategically. Hey, what if we will go take the resources? We would not buy the resources from the third party sellers like the companies like BP, British Petroleum, Shell, or any other Texaco. We will go and get those resources ourselves. This is why China is investing in Africa. It's not some kind of, a goodwill or volunteering or, fighting imperialism, this kind of stuff. This is purely material interest. And of course, Africa is welcoming these investments because most of them are really in better conditions than other investments were done by the Western countries, which were pretty much exploring the countries like Africa, Vietnam, Bangladesh. These guys from China, they are showing a little more compassion, but again, there's nothing favorable in this. They're just offering a better terms. This is how to do the business. My take on this is, if China is less evil because of this, no. China is less evil. Just go and Google what they are doing to their own population, to Tibetans, to Uyghurs, and to other different national minorities. They're pretty much wiping them off, arresting them in the middle of the day, doing some kind of weird stuff to people, that are pretty much innocent, getting them life in jail, killing them, wiping them out of the face of the earth. Definitely, which is not okay. Organ harvesting is one of the other things that is being pretty much legalized in China nowadays. You can just go on YouTube and search for the people who will testify, the doctors who ran away from China's government, who were made just capture innocent people that were politically not up to par with the Chinese Communist Party and take their organs out. So the state that does these kind of things or kidnaps the entrepreneurs in the middle of the day, we all know that Jack Ma, the richest man in Asia, was kidnapped in the middle of the day after obviously either giving a share of his company or money or whatever, they let him go. But this is a big sign. Until now, until the Xi Jinping took over, these kind of things, if even they were happening, they were not happening this openly. China's appetite was a little bit below what it is right now. They were not openly trying to compete with the United States. They were leaning towards more partnership. After Xi Jinping took over, which was first secretary for decades, to go on the third term and pretty much change the things, how they used to work there, it was a revolutionary. This changed a lot in China. Personally, I think although many reports were predicting that China will take over as the world's first economy, this will never happen for several reasons. First, that the United States dollar is still a world reserve currency. Second, people still try to come and do business in the United States, even from China. You can find couple people who want to go to China, but majority of Chinese people want to come to United States, not United States people want to go to China. So that tells us a lot, especially if you're a rich investor, you understand that sooner or later Chinese government would come after you. Only reason that American government cannot come after if you would not pay your taxes, which would be a dumb move to do. Chances that government will come and just take your money away or kidnap you in the middle of the day in America is very, very, very low, unless you're some kind of crazy person committing some kind of conspiracy theories. Other thing I wanted to pay attention in China is that Chinese economy is not really strategically structured. What I mean by this, you probably know that one of the main state debt owners of the United States is China. Yeah, as far as I know, China owns around 2.6% of the US debt, which is a crazy amount. China invests heavily in real estate overseas and inside of China. So recently, I want to say about 6 months ago, there were panic. The Chinese government and Chinese people are heavily invested, private sector invested in real estate in America too, and one of the giants that is pretty much building in China, Evergreen, they went bankrupt. That created an expectation in international markets that pretty much that will have some kind of echo here in the United States. Thanks God it didn't happen. United States real estate proved to be one of the best asset classes to invest, and the countries like China are not really protected. Personally, my opinion is that China will not surpass the United States in next 10, 15, 20, even 30 years. But never say never. Everybody expects China to start a war in Taiwan. Most people think that's just a matter of time. I think personally that they would not do it, not because of they're scared, they're just happy where they are right now. Personally, I feel that Xi Jinping, he pretty much he's the most powerful man in the Asia, I want to say. And until him, no secretary gained so much power. He's a pretty much first man in the century in China to grasp all the powers. He's not as old as Putin. He's not that old, so I think he has one more term, which most probably he will try to learn from mistakes that Vladimir Putin did and not attack Taiwan unless he wants to embarrass himself in front of the whole world. Also, another weird thing about China, you can just go on YouTube and Google China ghost towns. There are like gazillion amount of towns that were built and they're sitting empty. Now, there were different reasons, mostly fraudulent reasons to build those towns, but it shows how inefficient Chinese economy can be. Although, again, they have the greatest factories, greatest employees, greatest production lines, but when they make too much amount of money and they don't know where to really invest because there is capital stock exchange that we have here in the West, maybe they have some kind of Chinese version, but obviously it's not safe. No one trusts it because currency is also not being on the free flow. So there is not enough trust to the government. So people try, the only place they can invest is pretty much real estate. which again, if you just go and build whatever in the middle of nowhere, most probably it will not, you know, sell. So they're having like a huge ghost town sitting empty. That was my take on China. If you guys like this video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and see you on the next one.